Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Sunday. We got a nice four-game slate in our hands to talk about for NBA. So let me tweet out the stream, and then I'll jump into it. This slate is tricky. Obviously, the Luka news changes everything, whether or not he plays. But I just think there's so many ways you can go on the slate. It makes it really, really interesting. I think the ownership might be spread out. All right, so let's go over what we know. So far we have no news. We don't even have a starting lineup set for the first game. I mean, I don't think anything's gonna change for the first game with Philly and Boston. I think they'll have the normal starting lineups. So yeah, nothing to go over yet as far as that. Let me go to NBA really quick. So, we have Boston, we have Philly. It's a 216.5 over under. Boston are 7-point favorites here. We have the Clippers, we have the Mavs. It's a 231.5 over under. Clippers are 8-point favorites right now. So, that line is, I don't think it really stands out like the 8-point spread. I think right now that's saying Luka is literally 50-50 chance he plays. We have the Raptors, the Nets. Another game that is really hard to try to nail down because there's a good chance this game does not stay close. If it does, if Brooklyn can keep it close, we'll probably see a big game from LeVert, who has had back-to-back second halves where he's completely disappeared. And then we'll at least see probably at least one or two of a big game from Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Siakam. Or you just completely fade the game and hope for the blowout, which is definitely possible. The last game here, Denver-Utah, I think this game goes a bit under the radar. It's a 216 over under. Utah are 3-point favorites. I'll talk about it with Denver in a bit, though, but I kind of like Jokic. I kind of like Jamal Murray here, and I don't think they're going to be high owned after back-to-back games where they've gotten blown out. I think they're going to want to come out and really obviously play better, but we also have MPJ's minutes were limited. He was a high-usage guy in the offense. If he's not going to get big minutes, the offense is coming from Jamal Murray. It's coming from Nikola Jokic in basically a must-win game here. So we'll get to that more in the end. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat here. But yeah, so we'll go. I'll give you guys a team-by-team breakdown, cash plays, GPP plays. I can give you a core, but that's tricky because the Luka news changes everything. Right now, I have my lineup built around the fact that Luka is going to play. If Luka's out, I'm going to get Porzingis in my lineup, and I'm probably going to get at least one of those guards, whether it be JJ Barea, or it be Seth Curry, Trey Burke. So, yeah, that's kind of how I'm going about it right now. So let's talk about Boston and Philly first here. So we have Tatum coming in at 9K. I don't think he's going to be too high owned on this one. If you played him last slate, you got super unlucky. The foul trouble again from Tatum, early foul trouble, missed out on huge minutes. If he didn't get into that foul trouble, was on pace for I think about 40 plus minutes. Like he missed a good 10 minutes or so, and he also shot the ball 6 of 19, which we probably won't see again. So you got really, really unlucky if you played Tatum that last slate. I think he's a really solid play again. The upside is certainly there if he stays out of foul trouble, if he has a half-decent shooting day with no Gordon Hayward, obviously. So the upside is like 60 fantasy points on a guy, Jason Tatum. So, of course, I have interest in him. I also have interest in the two guards, Brown and Kemba. I think Kemba's a little bit safer just because he's a point guard. Even though he did only have 4 assists, it's just point guards usually have a higher floor since they have the ball in their hands more. Usually, again, they have more assists compared to a guy like Jaylen Brown, who, not a guy that's normally going to get a whole lot of assists. I mean, they're both pretty similar plays. Both are going to play big minutes. Kemba had the big game last game, so I think Kemba will be higher owned than Jaylen Brown. I don't mind going to Jaylen Brown as a pivot. Also a guy that has 50-plus fantasy point upside. So, yeah, this one, I think all three Boston main guys look good with Tatum, with Jaylen Brown, with Kemba Walker. Would I play more than one? I don't think so. I just think there's a lot of upside in guys in other games, so I don't think I would go crazy with my Boston exposure unless I was just going with a game stack and hoping for OT, which is always a viable strategy, right? OT. I don't know what the percentage is, like maybe 5% of the time games go to OT or less than that. Yeah, the main three Boston guys, I like all of them. Everyone else, though, I'm probably not going to get to. Like Marcus Smart is 5'6". The minutes will be there, but his upside is not as high playing the off guard. Sure, he had 34 fantasy points in 39 minutes. I think he's a fine mid-range play. I don't know if he's a guy that's going to win me a GPP, though. So probably not going to get to Smart at 5'6". I'm not going to get to Tice, even at a decreased price point at 4'2". Minutes went back up for him, 26. But I just don't play centers against Joel Embiid. I'm probably not going to get to Cantor. I mean, you could take a shot there, hope he gets a little extra run. He only played 14 the last game. The game before played 22. Obviously, if he plays more minutes, like if he gets minutes into the 20s, I think he can get you there because he's a really good point per minute guy. But it's a risky target on the slate, and I don't know if I want to do that because we have a guy like Avicii Zubac who played 30 minutes last game and is priced a little bit more. Like, I just feel more confident going to Zubac. Now, sure, it's Doc Rivers. You know, that rotation really surprised me last game. I thought the Mets would be the same for Lou Williams. I thought they would go up for Montrezl Harrell. They went down for Harrell. They went way down for Lou Williams. So, guess you can never really trust Doc Rivers. But, yeah, we'll get to that more in a bit. But Zubac is the cheap center right now that I'm looking to. I don't think I'm going to get to anyone else. So, like Wanamaker, Grant Williams. They're just dart throws. Like, how many minutes did Wanamaker play? He played 18. Not enough for consideration on the slate. Grant Williams played 11, right? Not enough. So that's it for me on Boston. Really, it's the main three guys. Tatum, Brown, Kemba, I think all look really solid for their prices. And then maybe Cantor as a GPP dart throw, hoping he gets extended. Because if I knew Cantor was going to play 20 minutes, I would have interest in him. But Brad Stevens just hates playing Enes Kanter. Let's talk about Philly. So Philly, they're down 3-0. Obviously, this is a must-win game for them. Embiid had a really, really good first half of last game, and then cooled off in the second half. 35 minutes, 52.25 fantasy points. I mean, he's going to play probably close to 40 minutes. The offense will be run through him. The tricky part is this game is at noon Central, and we probably won't get the Luka Doncic news before this. So what are you guys going to do, right? Because if Luka's out, I'm playing Porzingis. Like, I'm playing Porzingis over Embiid, but we're probably not going to get that news. I'll try to keep refreshing Fantasy Labs, but I don't think we're going to get that. So, a strategy that right now I'm going with is don't really know if this is the correct strategy, but I'm just fading the first game because I need more time. The Luka news changes everything, and if we don't get that news, I'm just going to stay away from this first game. I'm not saying you guys have to, because there's obviously upside of those Boston guys I talked about. There's Embiid. There's a couple other really solid plays in Philly. But that's just the way that I'm going to approach it if we don't get that news in the next 30 minutes. So, Embiid, I love him. But if Luka's out, like, I'm playing Porzingis over Embiid for $1,000 less. Tobias Harris finally had a good game, or a decent game, even a bad shooting, 6 of 19, 1 for 43 fantasy points. He makes for an interesting contrarian play because I think people will, if they're going to someone on Philly, it probably will be Embiid once again. Like, Tobias has been low-owned. He still has not had a good shooting game this series. 6 of 15, 4 of 14, 6 of 19. When shooting well, he can go for 50+. So Tobias is an interesting contrarian play that I like, but probably not going to get to either right as of right now, just because I need Luka Doncic news. Horford, I'm complete fade there at 6'2". I know the Mets went way up on him, went to 38, but still not enough. I mean, he's just not a big part of their offense, really. Josh Richardson at 5'2", I think it makes for a fine cash game play. Played 42 minutes last game. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Did not shoot the ball well, but the 42 minutes is good to see. So, yeah, I think he's perfectly fine for cash games. He can have upside if he's shooting the ball well. So Josh Richardson, I think, makes look a pretty good play in the mid-range. I would prefer him to a guy like Marcus Smart. They're both, I think Smart's at 5'6", Jay Rich is at 5'2". I just think Jay Rich has to do a little bit more for Philly, whereas Marcus Smart can kind of rely on those other three guys. So I would prefer getting a Josh Richardson if you're looking at one of those like guys in the mid-tier in this game. And then the value option. So Shake Milton at 4.4K, I think is in play. Now, how many minutes are we going to get out of him? Because he played 38 that last game. Previous 26 and 29. If he plays 38 again at 4.4, then I think he looks really good. But can we trust Brett Brown to give him 38 again? I don't know. So this is another tricky one. Like, I like Shake Milton. I don't know what his minutes are going to be like. He could play somewhere between mid-20s to high 30s minutes. So it's a little bit of a riskier target. But if he does get extended, Like, I think he looks a really, really solid value play. And finally, Burks off the bench. This is just a dart throw right now. The Mets have been all over the place for him, 28, 16, and 22. He's a good scorer. So, like, I think if he comes out off the bench and starts shooting the ball well, like, Brett Brown will leave him in there. And maybe they play Burks more and, like, limit the Mets a bit with, like, Josh Richardson and Shake Milton. So, Burks is, like, probably a sub 5% owned guy that you can look to in GPPs, because I think if he plays well right away, then he will get extended. And, like, Alec Burks is a good scorer. Like, he could definitely go for 30-plus in this one if the minutes are there. So, I kind of like him. Again, more of a contrarian play, though. Thibault's basically out of the rotation now. Can't do that. Don't go to Korkmaz. So, that's my thoughts right now in Philly. Embiid, I like as a spend-up, but right now, if we don't get the Luka news, I'm just not going to get to him. Tobias makes for an interesting play in the mid-range. He's had bad shooting days in all 3 games so far this season. If he has a better shooting day, he could definitely go for 50 at low ownership. Josh Richardson, I think, makes for a safe play at 5-2. And guys like Shake Milton and Alec Burks are viable punt options. The minutes a little bit more in question with those guys, but if they do get extended, if they do hit the higher end of those minutes, could definitely get you there for value. So let's refresh Fantasy Labs again, see if we got any more news. Sixers, yeah, Milton, Richardson, Harris, Horford, and Embiid. That's what we expected. So no real shock there. Let's talk about the Clippers now in Dallas. So I was really tilted that last game because I was high in Lou Williams. I thought we were going to get his normal 32 minutes again. The minutes went sure, 6 minutes may not seem like a lot. That's huge for a guy like Lou Williams. So he went down from 32 to 26. That is huge. Tyler Jafarian with a $5 super chat. You the man, DK. Thank you, man. Really do appreciate that. I'll get to some questions at the end, but thank you. Let's get back to the Clippers. So yeah, I was really tilted about that with Lou Williams. The Mets went way down on him. Yeah, right now I don't know what Doc Rivers is doing with his rotation. Like a guy like Landry Shamet got extended, so I don't think I can get to Lou, and I don't think I can get to Montrezl Harrell just going off that last game. Like Montrez, the minutes are still not there. I thought they would go up after playing 22 the last game. They went down. So I don't think I can do either of them right now. But the guys that I do like. Well, first is Zubac at 4-4. I think right now he's one of the top value plays of the day. Does he play 30 minutes again? I don't know. If he gets close, if he even sniffs close to 30 minutes, I think he's, again, one of your top value plays. He's a really solid point per minute guy. Only played 18 minutes the last game, which was worrisome, but then came out and played 30 and played 22 the first game. So it's like, what are the Mets going to be like for Zubac? It's a riskier target because I don't know what Doc Rivers is doing right now with his rotations. I don't know. If he gets close to 30, though, I think he's, again, one of your top value plays for sure. Jake Anderson with a $5 super chat. Remember when we played J.R. Smith? Yeah. So that was absolutely awful because I told you guys I was going to Rondo. I had Rondo, Anthony Davis, and Whiteside in the late game. And the news came out a couple hours before lock that game lock that Rondo was going to play. I was like, yes, I'm going to get Rondo low ownership. I like that a lot as value play. And then 5 minutes before lock, Rondo gets scratched. And I have no other options. So that's a late game. So I was playing Anthony Davis. I was playing Whiteside. I could have went down from Whiteside to McGee and then went up to KCP. But I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to play Whiteside. I'll just throw J.R. Smith in and hope he hits shots. Obviously, that did not go well for me. So, yeah, that was not good. The Rondo news really screwed us. That really did hurt. But, yeah, back to the Clippers now. So, I like Zubac quite a bit if he does get the higher end of his minutes. And then Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. If Doc Rivers is going to limit Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell like he did last game, then these two guys look really good. The minutes are huge in Kawhi, about 40 a game. 59, 53, and 64 fantasy points at under 10K. I think he makes for a very, very safe option. Now, I think the ownership will be up on him, for sure. He's been shooting the ball really well, too. I have absolutely no issue with Kawhi. I think he looks really solid, especially if they're just going to limit Lou and Montrez. I think Paul George looks good, too, at 8K. He has shot the ball terribly. 4 of 17 and 3 of 16 the first couple games. Has still put up fantasy points in the mid-30s. That shooting that bad. If he just has a half-decent shooting game, Paul George can go for 50 for sure. So I like both Clippers forwards here with Kawhi, with Paul George. Yeah, I think they both look good for their prices right now. Both pretty safe options. It's a good matchup. Now, If Luka Doncic is out, then I think you have to have the blowout in the back of your mind. Like, do the Clippers just run Dallas off the court with no Luka? I think that's a possibility. So that's something you got to think about as well. Lou Williams, I want to play him. If I knew Lou was playing 32 minutes, I would really like him. But right now, I don't think I can do it. Let's see. Paulie B with a $5 super chat as well. I'm throwing the flag in on DFS, getting killed, but I'm giving props. You're best still, DK Michigan love. Thank you, man. Seriously, I really do appreciate you guys coming in and giving me the super chats every single day. Not necessarily, but they are greatly, greatly appreciated. Currently, right now, guys, at almost 260 viewers. So if you guys enjoy the free content, the easiest way to support me, just leave a like button on live stream and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 5K by the end of the month. Probably not going to do it now because we got about 7 days left and I'm still not to 4.5. But back to the Clippers here. Marcus Morris, 5'4". I think it's a fine mid-range play. The minutes have been there for him. He's been playing well. So not my favorite play, but I think he's perfectly fine if you get to him. Shamet's a guy that I think will garner some ownership at 3-4, just going off that last game. But I would be worried here because Shamet's a pretty low usage guy. I know he had a good game. He went for 18 real-life points, but only 3 rebounds, 1 block, and 1 steal. Other than that, in 27 minutes. Like, Shamet is a guy that will disappear on offense. Look at that game against Brooklyn. He played 32 minutes. He had 7 fancy points. Right, so the floor is low on a guy like Shamet. 22 minutes against the Lakers. 4 fancy points. It's a tricky one because there's not a whole lot of like amazing value, I would say, if you're going like a really, really cheap guy, like below like 3.5K, like he's probably your guy that you would look to. But I think the ownership might be up, and I don't feel amazing about it. So like I think I'm gonna pass on Shamet. I think I'm gonna let others chase that. I don't think he has that good of a shooting day again. And if he doesn't, like the floor is really low on him. Let's talk about Dallas. So obviously, this is the big news. Luka Doncic, he's a game-time decision, which is not helpful because we have a game that is locking in about 20 minutes. So, Celtics starting their normal starters, Walker, Smart, Brown, Tatum, and Tice, obviously with no Gordon Hayward there. So I don't know. People have asked me, do I think Luka is going to play? I really think it's 50-50. If Luka Doncic does play, I like him. I think the ownership will be low on him today because people will be worried about the ankle injury. So, again, my approach to this slate currently, if we don't get the Luka news in the next 20 minutes, is I am fading the first game because I want more time for this news to rearrange my lineup. If Luka plays, I kind of like him as a spend-up because I think we would get like a 20% on Luka Doncic. And people, obviously I'd be worried about the ankle injury, but I don't think he'd be that high owned. And he's had really, really good games. That 2 games ago in 28 minutes, 50 fancy points. Again, he was in foul trouble. And the last game got injured, 29 minutes, almost 50 fancy points. Imagine if he plays 38 minutes, right? He's on pace for about 70 fancy points. So I like Luka if he plays. If he doesn't, then that changes everything. Porzingis becomes probably your top point per dollar play at 9.2. Obviously, I know the blowout risk would be a little bit more in play if Luka's out, but Porzingis usage just goes way, way up when Luka's out. Like he could go for 60 plus easily. So would really like Porzingis if Luka is out. I think he would be your top spend up. And then there are some other options. So DFS and Kleber probably wouldn't do those two guys. I don't think their role changes too much. They're more out there for their defense. The minutes will still be there for them. I don't think they're going to get a huge boost offensively. So those two guys I'll probably pass on. The guys that I would be interested in, well, first THJ. He would probably be the number 2. The issue with him is you're not really getting a huge discount, 5.7, and he is a little bit scoring dependent, but would certainly have interest in him if Luka is not available to play. And then the guards, the cheap guards. So we got Seth Curry, we have Trey Burke, and possibly JJ Barea. Because JJ Barea has started games where Luka has been out before. And he's got good minutes. Like, he started that game against Utah when Luka was out. He played 26 minutes, had 32.5 fancy points. Like, he's a good point per minute guy. If he starts, I like JJ Barea. Now, sure, right, it's Rick Carlisle. Can we trust it? Well, not necessarily, but I think if JJ Barea starts, it would probably at least 20-ish minutes, hopefully, if he does start. And then, Seth Curry, Trey Burke, these two guys would have to do a lot more. I would like them both quite a bit. I think you're going to want exposure to one of those guards. If Luka's out, I want one of Seth Curry, Trey Burke, or J.J. Barea. That's depending on J.J. Barea starting, right? I'm assuming he would start because he has started in games where Luka's been out before. So I would want one of those guards. I think all three are pretty similar. Seth Curry is a guy that's probably the best scorer. Maybe has the most upside, but don't forget about Trey Burke either. The Mets haven't been huge on him, but he's been really solid in his time, right? So I would want one of those Dallas guards. One of those three guards I mentioned. Like DeLon Wright, still, I don't know if I would do that. I think I would just prefer the other guards a little bit more on Dallas. And yeah, Boban, don't think his role changes too much. I think he gets about 10 minutes or so, so probably wouldn't do that. So really, again, it would be Porzingis for me, and then one of those cheap guards. Let's talk about Toronto-Brooklyn now. So this game is a tricky one because the upside is absolutely enormous on it if it stays close, but there's a really, really good chance it does not stay close. So a couple different ways you can go. You can get a good amount of exposure, like I have last couple games, or just completely fade it and hope for the blowout. The three main guys, once again, Lowry, Siakam, and Fred VanVleet, all have enormous upside. Lowry, in 35 minutes, went for 42.5 fantasy points. He shot the ball 7 times. And they missed out in the last 6 minutes there. So he plays his last 6 minutes, he gets 50 fantasy points. Siakam had 45.5 fantasy points in 33 minutes. He gets his 39 minutes, pushes for 50 plus for sure. And same thing with Fred VanVleet, right? So the upside in these guys is absolutely enormous. Fred VanVleet, only 32 minutes, 40 fantasy points. Imagine if he gets as close to 40 minutes. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if Brooklyn can somehow keep it close, at least two of these three guys will absolutely crush their salary. But there's a really good chance it blows out. So it's the risk-reward factor. I love all three of those guys for their prices. It's just, the risk is there for sure. So all about how you want to approach the slate. If I was playing a cash game setting, I might avoid this game. Just because I really do think the blowout is risk is for sure maybe greater than 50-50, maybe like 60-40 it blows out. So probably a game I would avoid in cash games. But yeah, Ibaka's at 5.8. I know he's been good in limited minutes. I don't know if I can pay $6K for a guy that's going to play like 24 minutes. Like, does he keep, like, he went absolutely off. 20, 13, 2, and 1 in 23 minutes. I think he's a viable GPP play, but I would feel more comfortable getting to the guys above him for a couple $1,000s more who would play 40 minutes if the game stays close. So I don't think I can get to Ibaka. I know he probably, the upside is there, but I don't think I can do it. Now, OG's probably your cash play with him and Norman Powell. The minutes will be there on him, about 35-ish. Not really out there more for his offense. He can have decent offense games, but I think he's more just a cash game play at 4 or 5, whereas Norman Powell's your GPP play. Now, I mentioned in my video last night, it was really interesting, especially in the higher dollar tournaments, how high owned Norman Powell was at last game. People just love chasing the big game. I always try to hammer that down. People will chase the big game no matter what. Like, Norman Powell played 32 minutes 2 games ago, shot the ball amazing, went for 37 fantasy points, and he was 50% owned last night. And then he came out and played 23 minutes and had 19 fantasy points. And I said, I don't think he's going to play 32 again. He's not going to shoot that well. He's probably going to play somewhere in the middle. He did, and he kind of busted for 50% of the people because people just chase that big game. Now, sure, the upside is there. I think if you shoot him the ball well, he could get extended to 30 minutes. So I like Powell. I think he's a GPP play. I don't think he's a 50% owned guy like he was that last slate. And then lastly, Gasol, he's a shell of his former self. I like the upside a bit more on Zubac for a little bit more as a cheap center. So I'm not going to get to Marc Gasol. And that's it for me on Toronto. So Brooklyn, what are we going to do with Brooklyn here? Well, I played LeVert basically every single slate. I'm probably going to play him again. He has absolutely disappeared in the second half of the last 2 games. He was on pace for 70 fantasy points that second game. He was on pace for 60-plus fantasy points that last game. And just completely disappeared in the second half. I don't know why Brooklyn. I didn't get to watch a lot of that second half, but I heard he was playing off ball more, which does not make sense. Their offense is LeVert, Jarrett Allen, pick and roll, let Caris LeVert make a play. So I love his upside still. I know he's disappeared in the second half, but if you're playing a Toronto guy, I think it makes sense to run it back with LeVert because if you play one of those Toronto guys, you're hoping for the 40 minutes. If they play 40 minutes, the reason the game is close is because of Caris LeVert. So I think that makes sense for roster construction purposes. If you're going to play one of those Toronto guys, play LeVert with them. Like I said, what was it, last slate with Giannis and Vucevic. If the game stays close, we're probably going to see a big game from Vooch. Now, that was more, I think Vooch still didn't get you there, but because DJ Augustine went crazy, which actually helped me. But, it does make sense. If Brooklyn does keep it close, I think we're going to see a massive game from LeVert. He had a terrible shooting day 2 games ago, 5 of 22. Just kind of disappeared in that last game. Only shot the ball 14 times, so that was a little bit worrisome. But I still like his upside. I don't think the ownership will be that high on him. I kind of like Jared Allen in the mid-range at 7-4. Did not shoot the ball. Shot the ball 0 times. Still put up 33 fantasy points with 0 shot attempts. So imagine if he just has a couple putback dunks. Like, he's over 40-plus easily. Jared Allen is, if the game stays close, he's going to push for 40 minutes. So I have interest in Jared Allen. I think he also kind of flies under the radar. And I think you can play Allen and LeVert together if you want to. And maybe run it back with one of those Toronto guys. I think that makes sense for like a GPP build. The other options. Well, Temple and TLC, I mentioned it the last slate, their roles are not going to change. The minutes will still be there. They just have to hit their shots. They're not guys that are going to create their own shots. LeVert's going to do that and kick it out to these guys, and these guys have to hit their threes. Well, Garrett Temple shot 2 of 12 last game. Timothy I'll just call him TLC. 3 of 18. They shot 5 of 30 combined. Well, that's the reason why Brooklyn lost, right? You cannot shoot 5 of 30. So it's a tough one. I wish they were, cheaper, but they literally just have to hit their threes. If they are not hitting their threes, the floor is super low on both these guys. I think TLC will be chalky again. He was chalky last slate. I think he'll be chalky again. I think both are similar plays, though. TLC is probably the better shooter, but both are going to play huge minutes, and both literally just have to hit their threes. The minutes will be there. So it's a tricky one. I think, you could play one of those guys with LeVert because obviously, LeVert would most likely be the guy getting the assist, kicking out to them. So it makes sense to maybe go LeVert and one of those, one of those wing guys. We still have no Joe Harris, obviously, so that's why, TLC, Temple have to step up and actually hit their threes this game if they want to stay close. And then finally, Tyler Johnson. He's at 4-6. He was inserted in the starting lineup. He was the guy I mentioned liking his upside the most because he can create his own shot. Whereas TLC, Garrett Temple, they're not going to. They're going to have to rely on like Tyler Johnson or LeVert to get them an open shot. He only played 24 minutes. I think that was partly due to the foul trouble, but still, I don't think the plan is to play him huge minutes anyway. So this is a tricky one. I still like his upside because he is like the other guy that created a shot on this team. So I have a little bit of interest there in Tyler Johnson. And then finally, Chiozza at 3-7. The Mets went up on him 23. We did get 4 steals. Probably won't get that again. So this is a riskier play. I think he's viable. Like if you're going for the blowout, like I think you could play Chiozza and just hope the game blows out because I think he would be a guy that would play in the blowout. Karuk's, the Mets went way down to him. Justin Anderson was in the rotation, but not enough Mets for me to consider him. Only 14. So that's my thoughts there in Brooklyn. Temple and TLC, literally, the shots will be there. They just have to hit their shots. And finally, Denver, Utah. So, Denver, this is an interesting one because Denver's gotten blown out the last couple games. Absolutely killed. I kind of like Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray here. I think the ownership will drop on these guys. They've had back-to-back games where they have not played the full complement of minutes, obviously. The offense is running through these two guys, Jamal Murray and Jokic, and they benched Michael Porter Jr. in the second half. They played Jeremy Grant over him. So if Michael Porter Jr. is not in that starting lineup, then we know where the offense is coming from. It's Jokic, it's Murray, and that's it, right? Paul Millsap is a shell of his former self. Jeremy Grant is fine, but he's not a guy that's going to create his own shot a whole lot. Like, who else is going to score the ball for this team? It's not going to be Torrey Craig. It's going to be Jokic. It's going to be Murray. And you're getting them at nice discounts here. So I like both Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in this spot. I think the ownership is going to be really low on them, but I like their upside quite a bit here for GPPs. I think this game stays close. If it does, I think we get almost 40 minutes from Jokic. I think we get 35 plus from Jamal Murray. I mean, we know the upside's there for a guy like Jamal Murray, right? 60 fantasy points. I know the game went to overtime, but still. So I like both those guys. MPJ is the guy I'm staying away from. I just don't trust Mike Malone right now. Only played 15 minutes. Was benched in the second half. I just don't trust it. So I'm not doing Michael Porter Jr. The two guys I've interested in are Jamal Murray and Jokic. I think Jeremy Grant is actually a pretty solid value play, especially if he starts. If they insert him into the starting lineup at 4.3K, I think he looks really solid. So dependent on whether or not they start MPJ or Jeremy Grant. If they start Grant, I think he looks pretty good. I'm not getting to Millsap again. He's a shell of his former self, even at 4-1. I'm not getting to Monte Morris at 3-9 or Torrey Craig or Dozier or Plumlee. Really, it's Jokic, it's Jamal Murray, and it's Jeremy Grant for me on Denver. Finally, Utah. So Donovan Mitchell's at 9-5. I think this is the easiest fade of the day. Once again, I mentioned in the last slate, I said, Donovan Mitchell 9-4 is the easiest fade. He's the easiest fade for me again. There's just absolutely no way I'm paying 9-5 for Donovan Mitchell with Mike Conley there. Sure, could Donovan Mitchell go for 50 plus? Yep, but there's just so many other better plays around his price that there's just no way I'm getting to Donovan Mitchell. I'm not getting to Rudy Gobert too. I think he's a really easy fade at 7-8. He had a good game last game. I'm not chasing it. He shot the ball 15 times. That's more of an outlier for him. I just like the upside more on guys like Embiid, Jokic, Porzingis, guys who can actually create their shot and not rely on others to create their shot. So I'm not paying almost 8K for Rudy Gobert. Also, there is some foul trouble risk going up against Jokic. Mike Conley at 6'3", I think looks solid for his price. He had an amazing shooting day. Shot the ball 9 of 13, 38 fancy points, and the game did blow out. So he was on pace to absolutely crush. I don't think he's going to shoot that well again. All right, he had 27 real-life points. We're probably not going to see that again. So this one's a tricky one. I think Mike Conley's a solid play in the mid-range, but the ownership might be up on him just looking at the last game. Ingles, I'm going to pass on right now, 5-5. He wasn't on, he was only on pace to play like 30-ish minutes, 32. So not enough for me to consider him, especially with Mike Conley back. He won't be running the point rarely ever. Clarkson is another easy fade in my opinion at 5-3. Probably get close to 30 minutes off the bench. He'll shoot the ball a ton, but I'm not getting to him when we have both Conley and Donovan Mitchell healthy. Royce O'Neal's the last guy I'll mention. I kind of like at 4K. I think he makes for a good value play. He'll play about 35-ish minutes. His role's not going to change again. He's out there for his defense, but he's a guy that can get you rebounds, assists. He can hit a couple threes, and if he does that, he's already at value for you. So I like Royce O'Neal for a value option there at 4K, and that's it. I'm not going to get to Niang or Morgan or Moody. I don't have to do that. So let's refresh Fantasy Labs one more time and get to questions here. All right, no more news. So, yeah, I can't really give you guys a core right now just because the Luka news changes everything. If Luka Doncic is out, again, I'm going to play Porzingis, and I'm going to play one of those guards. If Luka Doncic is in, then I might play Luka himself because his ownership might be low. So it's going to be kind of a wait-and-see approach. The way I'm attacking the slate is I'm fading the first game. Am I worried about fading Embiid? Yes. Am I worried about fading those Boston guys? Of course I am. But I just think, the Luka news just changes absolutely everything, and I want the ability to move my lineup around and not be locked in. So that's how I'm attacking the slate. Let's see. O'Neal or Zubac for cash? Probably Royce, just because can we really trust Doc Rivers right now? Again, if Zubac gets close to 30 minutes, I think he'll absolutely crush his salary. So I think it's Royce for cash, but I like both for value. Any love for Tatum? Yeah, I like all three of the Boston guys. I told you guys my approach. I am fading the first game because I need that time. I need to know whether or not Luka Doncic is playing. Jamal Murray, Rudy Gobert, Leonard, and Mike Conley. Let's see. Zubac. Let's see. Walker, Josh Richardson, Kemba, Josh Richardson, Kawhi, Morris, Marcus Morris, Allen, Conley, TLC, and O'Neal. No real issue with that. Powell or Temple for GPP. I think it's going to be Norman Powell for me. He just has more upside. And if he does shoot the ball well off the bench, like he could get over 30 minutes like we saw in Game 2. So I think Powell's the guy that has more upside. Kemba or Conley for GPP. I'll go Kemba there. I think Kemba is a little higher upside than Mike Conley. I think both are similar, but I like the upside maybe a little bit more on Kemba. LeVert, Royce, or Siakam and Zubac. Probably Siakam, Zubac. I like the upside a little bit more with Zubac compared to Royce, if he does get those minutes. Jay Rich or Finney Smith. It's going to be Josh Richardson for me for sure. Thoughts on Shake? I like Shake. Now, how many minutes we're going to get from Shake Milton, right? So we saw 26, I think 28, and then 38. If I knew Shake Milton was going to play 38 minutes, I would like him a lot. I don't know if that's necessarily secure, so it's a tricky one with Shake Milton. I think he's a good value play. Now, we might get better value with the Dallas guards, though. So do you want to wait, or do you want to go with the guaranteed value right now? Brown or Van Fleet for cash? Well, I think it's got to be Jaylen Brown, because I don't think I would target Brooklyn and Toronto for cash games. So yeah, full disclosure, guys, like if you're playing cash games, I think you avoid Brooklyn and Toronto right now. TLC or OG for cash? Yeah, that's a tricky one. Because TLC's got to knock down those threes. OG's not really out there for his offense. I'll go TLC. Even though he is a little bit scoring dependent, I just don't think he's going to shoot 3 of 18 again, so I'll go TLC. Total points, Murray or Harris? Probably Jamal Murray. Like just total points, not fancy points, total points. Josh Richardson or Finney Smith for GPP? It's going to be Josh Richardson. Let's see. I love stacking Murray and Denver. I do too. I have Jamal Murray and Jokic in my lineup right now. We'll see. I'm assuming Luka's playing, though, in my lineup. If Luka's out, then I got to rearrange some stuff. But I just like the upside on the Denver guys, and I think they go low on if they get blown out in back-to-back games. Let's see. LeVert, Fred VanVleet, TLC, Royce, Porzingis, Curry, OG, and Jamal Murray, pending Luka news. Yeah, that's very, very similar to where I'm going right now. Let's see. I still love Seth Curry off the bench. If Luka Doncic plays, if Luka plays, I wouldn't play Seth Curry at 4-6. If Luka's out, then yeah, you can play Seth Curry for sure. Tatum, Grant, or Tobias and Ibaka. It would probably be Tatum and Jeremy Grant there. He played 38 because he was shooting well. Who do you use? Who do you use for your minutes projection? So I don't use any projections. I don't use ownership projections. I don't use minutes projections. I just go off, I guess, my knowledge of DFS because I've been playing it for like 10 years. So yeah, I don't use any of that. I just kind of can know who's going to be. I'll build lineups and kind of can know who the high-owned guys are going to be just off of like who fits well. Building a lineup. Let's see, Ibaka, Smart, or Kemba, Powell. I think it's Kemba and Norman Powell for me. Kemba, Paul George, Zubac, or Conley, Morrison, Fred VanVleet for GPP. I will go with the first option there. Let's see. Kawhi Leonard or Jokic? That's a tricky one. I think Kawhi Leonard is probably your safer play, and he'll be higher owned. So if you're playing a cash game setting, I think the answer is Kawhi Leonard. If you're playing a GPP setting, again, I kind of like both Jokic and Jamal Murray today. I don't know if I play either TLC or OG in cash. The floors are pretty low. That's why I was like a little bit like undecided in that question. I mean, I will go TLC, but yeah, Kemba or Murray. I am going to go Jamal Murray. Core 4, I can't give it right now just because it's the Luka news changes everything. So again, if Luka is out, I would play Porzingis and one of those Dallas guards in my core. And then, are we talking cash games or are we talking GPPs? Because if you're talking GPPs, I like this game. If you're talking cash games, I think you cross this game off. So it's not a viable, to give a core on a slate like this because we don't have the game-changing news. I've noticed projections will throw you off some plays that matter. Yeah, that's why I don't use projections at all. I don't want to rely on other people. I just want to, and that's why I don't really listen to other breakdowns either because I don't want to be swayed onto plays that I wasn't on originally. Jared Allen or Kemba? I think Kemba is probably your safer option. So yeah, I would say Kemba for cash. Maybe Jared Allen for GPPs because he's not going to shoot the ball 0 times again. Kemba, Richardson, Paul George, Morris, Gobert, VanVleet, TLC, and O'Neal. I don't like Rudy Gobert today. Other than that, I think it's fine, but I'm just not playing Rudy Gobert. 2 of Jokic, Porzingis, and Zubac if Luka's out. If Luka's out, it's going to be Porzingis, and probably. I mean, I don't know what the rest of your lineup looks like. Obviously, I would prefer getting to Porzingis and Jokic, but I like the value quite a bit on Zubac. Can we trust Doc Rivers, though? Like, I would not be surprised if we just get 18 minutes out of each of Zubac, and then we're just completely screwed because of Doc Rivers. Last man in, Tyler Johnson or Zubac. It's going to be Zubac for me. Sure, the minutes are a little bit more in question. If Zubac gets close to 30, though, I think he has a really, really good day. Only have Richardson in the first game. We'll see how it works out. Yeah, I think Josh Richardson is a safe play. Right? He played 42 minutes. 5'2", seems about right. So I think Josh Richardson's good. Is Burks good value? He's risky value. I think if he plays well off the bench, like early on, he could get close to 30 minutes. And Burks is a guy that can go for 30 plus. So he's a low-owned play that I like in GPPs, but I would not go there for cash. So right now he's risky value. Fred VanVleet or Murray in cash. It's got to be Jamal Murray for me just because of the blowout. Like I think for cash games, I avoid Toronto and Brooklyn. Gobert or Allen, it's going to be Jared Allen for me over Rudy Gobert. Yeah, I would prefer Jared Allen. I know he's maybe a little bit riskier because of the blowout, but I guess if you're talking cash games, it might be Gobert. Let's see, locked and loaded. We are locked. I have nobody in the first game. Is that okay? Yeah, I mean I faded it because of those reasons. I want the flexibility to move my lineup around. Josh Richardson 40% owned. I'm fine with that. I think he's a solid play for his price. Let's see. Let me take a look at some other ownership. So Kemba Walker is 45% owned. Josh Richardson is 42%. Shake Milton is 33%. So it looks like, once again, people are going with the guaranteed value right away. If Luka's out, I want one of those Dallas guards. I think that they have the most upside. So we'll see how it goes. Trying to take a look at some other ownership here. DK hates Gobert. I just don't like playing a guy that is not great offensively. And his price is up. Like, I would just much rather get to guys who are like can have the ability to break the slate. The only way Gobert has an amazing day, he needs 6 blocks and 3 steals, and I don't want to rely on that. So yeah, that's why I don't like Gobert. Kemba's high owned. I'm not really surprised Kemba being high owned. I liked him for his price. Josh Richardson 35%, Tatum 11%. So it's interesting, right? So Kemba Walker had the big game last game. He is almost 50% owned. Tatum was in foul trouble, struggled shooting, and is 11% owned. Is that not? I know Kemba's cheaper, but still, people will chase the big game. Now, I'm not saying Kemba's a bad play at all. It's just that's how it always goes. People will always go for the guy that had the big game last time out. I see Brad Wanamaker at 1% owned. Whew. I think that's 1% of people burning their money. Joel Embiid is 21%. No issue with that. Tatum and Tobias low owned. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really surprised about that because Kemba had the big game last game. That's why he's high owned. Tatum kind of went forgotten about. Jaylen Brown gonna be. I haven't even found Jaylen Brown yet. He's gonna be super low owned. So we'll see how it goes. I have enough for 6,500. Who do I get? I don't want MPJ. Yeah, I would not play Michael Porter Jr. 6,500. If you're looking just at utility, I would probably go to Mike Conley at 6,300. That's the way I would go if you can do that. Kemba is way too cheap. Yeah, I like Kemba Walker. I do at below 7K, but I think people are going with going off that last game. Should be 8K with no Hayward. Well, you also, I mean, we had Tatum in foul trouble a lot of that game. Kemba Walker played most of that first half without Jason Tatum. That's most likely not going to happen again. I like Tobias, but faded the game due to Luka. That's the way I approached it too. Am I nervous about fading close to 50% on Kemba Walker? Yes, I am. But I want the flexibility to move stuff around. Let's see. I have 3 lines, 1 with Embiid, 2 with Jokic, and 2 other. I'm waiting on Luka news, and I want to have Porzingis. Yep, I think that's a good approach to do it. I'm stacking up the late game. I hope it goes super under the radar. Yeah, so full disclosure again, I have Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic right now in my lineup. I like the Jamal Murray pivot, right? Because Jamal Murray was at almost an identical price of Kemba Walker. We have a 50% on Kemba. That means Jamal Murray's going to be 5% owned. I mean, I don't know about 5%, but he'll be super low owned. If Luka's out, is KP better than Jokic? Yes. I like the upside more on Kristaps Porzingis. I would like both quite a bit, but I think Porzingis is the guy if I had to pick one. Good luck, DK, and everyone else. Thanks. If I ever hit top prize, I'll hit you with a super chat. LOL. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Love you, DK. One more. OG or Powell? Yeah. So it's going to be OG for a cash game setting. Powell for GPP. Powell's the guy that has more upside, but he's got to hit his shots. Porzingis point per dollar goes way up with no Luka. Yeah. I mean, Porzingis is the guy, right? I'm playing Kristaps Porzingis if Luka's out. Can you start VanVleet and Lowry together? I think it's viable. I think it is, but you really obviously need the game to stay close. Because I think two of those guys will have two of Van Fleet, Lowry, and Siakam will crush if the game stays close. So it is viable. It's a contrarian build. I think it's definitely lower owned, or not a lot of people will do that, but I think it is viable. What do you think about Zubac and Harrell's cheap play? So right now it's going to be Zubac for me, going off that recent game. I like his upside a little bit more. Are you into any Raptors, prioritizing them with no Luka news? I have Van Fleet in my lineup right now. That's strictly dependent on what happens with Luka. Again, if Luka's out, I'm probably going to get Porzingis, and then one of those Dallas guards, and then I might get one of the Clippers wings with Kawhi or Paul George. I could rearrange some stuff depending on what happens. Murray, Paul George, Tatum, Allen, Conley, Royce, Shamet, but we'll change. Yep, that's good with that. Thoughts on Hardaway? Hardaway's price is still not super cheap, but he would be the number 2 in the offense if Porzingis is out, or if Luka's out. So I do like Hardaway. The issue with him is he is a little bit scoring dependent, but he would be that number 2. So yeah, I like Hardaway. I think he would go a little bit under the radar, but that's only if Luka's out. Fred VanVleet should be 8K range. I mean, Fred VanVleet's been super consistent. The minutes are huge on him. It's just, the good chance the game blows out. So that's really it, guys. I appreciate all you guys coming out to check out the live stream. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. It is in the description below. I'll keep you guys updated with all the news. Tatum will have more fancy points than Luka today. Thanks for all the fades. I mean, yeah, I like the low-owned Tatum. People just went to Kemba Walker after the big game. I do not think Kemba Walker's a bad play. I don't. But should he be 50% owned? I don't know. Right? I think that's a little bit high. Murray or Conley? That's a tricky one. I think I like the upside a little bit more with Jamal Murray. Now, Jamal Murray's a little bit riskier, right? The range of outcomes for Jamal Murray is pretty high. A pretty low floor of 25-ish, and the ceiling is 50+. Whereas Conley probably has a lower range of outcomes, right? I would say a floor of 25, a ceiling of 35 to 40. So if you're shooting for upside, I think it's Jamal Murray. If you're going for safety, I think it's Mike Conley. All right, guys, good luck. I will see you all. I'll have a video up for Monday slate later tonight. Luka or Kawhi? Well, if Luka plays, I might go to Luka for ownership. I think Kawhi is your cash game play, but maybe Luka for GPPs, because people, including myself, would be worried about him aggravating that ankle injury if he does play. So Kawhi for cash, Luka for GPPs. Good luck, guys. I will see you all